In 6 months, if we decided to abandon the people, what would your comment be? Okay, this is to tell you that it is often tiring, it's tiring, but the only thing that keeps us going is the love of the people. We look forward to organizing elections based on African principles of justice. We do not want people to learn this politics from elsewhere and come and apply it here. We want to create a model that suits our people here.
Since coming to power by a military coup in 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has made tremendous developments in Burkina Faso. From development of road and railway network, to improvement in health and sanitation services, to even mega projects like the completion of the hydroelectricity dam and the Ouagadougou International Airport, let alone economic transforming projects like the mechanization of agriculture, establishment of Treasury Bank, and setting up of a domestic gold processing plant and a tomato processing plant. In the security sector, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is redefining what peace means to the ordinary Burkinabe as school and markets in territories formerly controlled by insurgents reopen. After the military acquired cutting-edge military equipment and technology from Russia, China, Turkey, and Iran, the magnitude of the process leaves many people asking so many questions. Like where and how is Captain Ibrahim Traoré able to access all these huge monies to run these projects? In an already devastated economy like Burkina Faso, others have claimed Burkina Faso is taking loans from World Bank and European Union, which is absolutely a pregnant lie. Some sympathizers of Puppet's leaders have criticized Captain Ibrahim Traoré for switching from the West to Russia and China, claiming he is not doing his country any better in terms of liberation, as he has only switched the colonial masters from France to Russia and China. So what is the reality? Is Captain Ibrahim Traoré actually getting money from Russia and China, and has he replaced France as a colonial master with yet another new colonial master that is Russia and China? Well, an exclusive interview held in French earlier this year with AFO Media, Captain Ibrahim Traoré answered all these questions. We now bring you the English version of this interview. Be sure to watch till the end as he answers some of the most penitent questions you would have loved to ask him if you met him. But before we get started, a quick, polite reminder: kindly support the channel by liking and sharing this video, and leaving us a comment, as this goes a long way in motivating to compile more content for you. And if you are even happier with our content, consider giving a super thank to even power us more. So let's get started with the interview. What happened? Why did the three states decide to leave ECOWAS?
Thanks. The withdrawal decision of these 3 countries grouped within the AES was not a cheerful thing, as it was turning our backs on an organization founded in 1975. But after a deep analysis, I think ECOWAS was a desire to integrate people, to make the development of the economy, solidarity, and mutual aid. Overall, the Pan-Africanist virtues led the heads of state to therefore create this organization. Unfortunately, over time, the organization lost its values. And today the observation is clear. I think that for over a decade, the sister republics of Mali and Niger are at war against terrorism. And in Burkina, almost a decade, we are at war. This organization, which was supposed to create mutual aid and solidarity, was absent. We have never received any help from this organization. No soldiers, no logistics, no compassion. What then do we want from such an organization?
Are you leaving ECOWAS because the 3 of you came to power by coup and ECOWAS does not support coups?
We did not carry coup d'etat because we wanted it. It is this way of seeing things that must change. You agree with me that these states in crisis carrying out coup d'etats and assuming responsibilities was a very heavy decision. But we did it because we have a desire to take our people towards sovereignty, because we know the origin of this crisis. And I think we should be complimented. Look at our cities. They have so many millions of displaced people in these regions. What are you doing to help them? Nothing.
Do you have the feeling that it's the military who are more likely to resolve these problems? And you no longer want civilian rule?
Not really. Anyone could do it. The military did not say that we no longer want civilians. It is out of a duty of patriotism. When the nation is in danger, at some point important decisions must be made. It turns out that it was the soldiers who had the courage to make these decisions. Well, that's what is there. In any case, civilians or soldiers, we are all the children of this country, and whoever is touched by this feeling should be able to free his country. Anyone can do it. So, it's not a question of the military. Elsewhere, the military has succeeded. Here too, the military can succeed well.
Now that ECOWAS says your citizens can no longer freely travel to their countries, what's your plan?
Anyone in Africa, an African who wants to come to Burkina Faso is welcome home. But on the contrary, it will be complicated for someone who is within the AES, for us to tell them that they can no longer go in Ivory Coast or Ghana. It becomes a little more complicated for those who do their business there. We will see and decide what measures to take in due course. This departure from ECOWAS is well thought out.
Don't you think this withdrawal from ECOWAS was an outburst that will make you crash? And how viable is the alliance of Sahel states?
I think we had time to analyze the situation, to weigh many things and finally decide. So if it was a crush from the first moment of certain sanctions, the people have been quite resilient. They suffered. So during this time we could decide in anger. Now we have taken the time to observe, to analyze the situation, and to convince ourselves of our strengths before deciding. You know very well that the alliance of Sahel states is more than viable. You know, for a long time our people have had a philosophy of tending to make us believe that we can do nothing without others. Today, our mission is to raise awareness. We need to be able to raise awareness that young people realize what is in their home and that our motherland will cater for us.
With sanctions and no access to the sea, what are you going to do about the economy?
After analyzing our strengths, we realized that we should not be at this stage. We must have been much further away. When you take the AES, in terms of population and surface area, we are well positioned for production. Normally, the states on the list should not carry anything with regard to agricultural products, food. Today, we are aware of this and we are doing everything so that we don't import anything when it comes to what we consume. In terms of wealth, that is natural. When I say natural, there are underground riches, but there is also those on the surface. We shout everywhere that Africans are dying of hunger and thirst and so on. Projects invented here and there, for example, to give us drinking water. The AES is a race for underground water reserves, and even on the surface, in terms of mineral resources. We have nothing to envy of anyone. God gave us enough. Unfortunately, people come and take this wealth and transform it when we are looking on. We are aware of our potential, and the AES has nothing to envy of anyone.
It's been over a year. What is your record in the field of security?
This is the priority for us. When you say terrorists, it's about killing, burning, displacing populations, and grabbing land. But I can tell you right now, as I said recently, there's no portions of our territory where we want to go to that you cannot go to. Today you can go all over the country, everywhere. Territories that were under terrorist control for 3 or 4 years, we have been setting up there. It's relative. Today we are on the offensive for most zones. We are no longer in a defensive posture. We go towards the enemy. We seek the enemy. When we decided to take our destiny into our own hands, as we like to say, it's a pretty important and a very courageous decision. And when you decide like that, all the sleeper cells wake up suddenly. And that's when you realize the magnitude of the terrorism situation. We realized this and decided to wage war. First, we have created a feeling of patriotism. Secondly, we have addressed the problem of logistics and situational intelligence. Patriotism has awakened all Burkinabe people, whether it is the combatants, whether it is the civilian population. But I can assure you, this would not have been possible a few years ago. Why? We must know how to awaken patriotism in every people. Give them confidence. Know that the homeland is the only thing they have left. We managed to do that. This is why, when asked to contribute, they do so. People have been asked to arm themselves to fight wherever they are, even today. If we decide that we want 1 million Burkinabe to fight, we will have them. Volunteers, for the defense of the homeland. Yes, people are ready, they are committed, and they do this without fearing danger because this is their homeland.
How realistic is it that the three countries can defeat these terrorists, yet for decades foreign armies, and ECOWAS has been here but failed to defeat them?
It's more than realistic. There were several situations. We had the chance to do field work. Many officers that we met who had the chance to field and maneuver with these foreign armies had a number of restrictions put on them. The foreign armies did what they wanted. What is even more surprising is that they had all technology. They had satellites that observe everything. They had drones, helicopters, all types of devices. But they never saw the terrorists. Today we have decided to go to war. You realize we find them every day and we whip them. So, there is a problem. There was no real desire to fight them.
Is it Wagner and the Russians that are helping you defeat the terrorists?
You know, with regard to Burkina, for example, we have always had a relationship with Russia. 80% of the equipment that the Burkina base had was Russian equipment. Of course, we have equipment that dates from the years of the revolution that we are still using, both Russian and Korean. But from the 90s, with the so-called structural adjustment program, everything was distorted. Our military capabilities were completely degraded intentionally to weaken us. Even there were soldiers who stood guard with sticks. We disarmed our armies. And this gave a chance to the terrorists to join the dance a few years later. In the media, meanwhile, they keep saying we are incapable of fighting. They will come to help us. Yet the truth is, and terrorism is only gaining ground. Today, with Russia, the relationship is to have strategic. There is no equipment that we want to buy from them that they don't sell to us. Others place restrictions on us. They say we can't buy this type of weapon. Of course, but the Russians will sell us whatever we want. Even as I speak now, the so-called Western friends blocked us from licenses of certain planes. There are some types of weapons they will never sell to us. So how do we explain these restrictions to our people? Where is the friendship? What do they want? There are many countries, Russians, Chinese, Turks, and the Koreans, and so on, with no restrictions. With Iran, whatever we want, they will take stock of it. If we can pay, we pay. But with these states that were supposedly our friends, there are restrictions. There are even some who have managed to tell us that they cannot sell us anything that is lethal. So, if we are waging war, and we can't kill the one in front of us, what does that mean? The terrorists are killing us, but we can't fight back. Maybe we have a duty to pick up stones. Maybe even the stone is lethal. Anything lethal they don't sell to us. That's the principle.
What are you giving the Russians? Do they take minerals? Or you simply move from one master to another? Are you selling a portion of the territory? What's the deal?
If that was the deal, to truly leave one master for another, we prefer to die. Because when we say homeland or death, it makes perfect sense. It's just fake news again. And unfortunately, we had even seen heads of state who fell into it and went to tell the lie, supposedly that we have given mines to the Russians in our southern part. Very wrong. There is nothing given to the Russians. Very wrong. Not even a mine? Why give? If the Russians want a mine, we have the mining code. They come to integrate into it. We give them their license, they pay taxes, and they do everything they have to do like everyone else.
But with what do you pay the Russians then? Because they are said to be fighting alongside your army.
First of all, we only have Russians who come to Burkina Faso to train our people on the various equipment that we purchase from them. We buy this equipment for cash. We don't borrow and we don't exchange our minerals for this equipment. When you sign a contract to acquire equipment, we sign the contract with the training. And this is not for Russians only. We have lots of Turks here who specialize in drones. Why don't they talk about it? They first trained our crews in Turkey, then they came here, they assisted us, and they continue to train our crews in piloting, maintenance, and everything. We have the contract for a given time. When our men are well trained, they're going to leave. The Chinese are there. The equipment we pay for in China is also there, so they come to train our military in handling this equipment. That's the reality. But there is nothing as Russians are fighting alongside our military. Absolutely not.
What is that you have done that the people of Burkina Faso should praise you for?
We don't talk about that. And I even said to the Minister of Communication, I don't want us to talk too much about our recovery. Let the villagers speak for themselves. There are several villages that have been settled, schools which have opened in several areas. But often saying that there is progress means there is no progress. We do not want to make videos that portray lies about our progress. Recently, there have been some reports to really confirm that people have taken over the places. They displaced people who have returned home, who even sell their garden products on the market. That means they returned several months ago, that they had time to cultivate. Like I said earlier about patriotism and logistics, that had for long failed us. When you take, for example, the Djibo attack last November, absolutely. As soon as there was the attack, there was response of the elements in Djibo and air vectors. The next day, rapid intervention battalions moved towards Djibo with the supplies and continued and marched on to the Barabule terrorist base, where we have never been since 2019. This is the part from where they prepare all the attacks, whether it is Barabule, Burum up to the border of Petegoli. We marched on terrorist bases. If there were no logistics, it's impossible. We were going to sit down, plan the operation. That's how it happened. And to bring together the logistics, I will tell you a secret. There have been times during certain operations here where we said, let us borrow weapons from neighboring countries or ask them to come and do the operation. Today, as soon as there is an attack, we use the Rapid Intervention Battalion. They instantly move because they are fully equipped, ready to fight. We don't have a little time to lose. This is how it happens now. There are several of them which are equipped, which are positioned all over the country. And this is also a result of the rise in power of logistical and tactical terms.
That is a lot of money for such a poor country. Where do you get the money?
Very good question. That's a lot of money. That's why I say that our countries are not poor. There is bad governance. There is theft. The plundering of our resources. That's it. That's what it's about. I take an example today, the Patriotic Support Fund. The population contributes and the vast majority maintains the volunteers for the defense of the homeland. What about the rest of the army that we are in the process of equipping? All these means that we are in the process of acquiring what is not there, and that's governance and finance. There are resources. We have potential. But if it's mismanaged, then what happens? Countries have enough to hold on to by simply producing and implementing good governance. How do we acquire the equipment? We don't beg and we don't borrow. We pay for every equipment you are army with today and other equipment in mechanization of agriculture and road construction. So it's all about management. There are situations we actually manage to manage because in all departments, all ministerial sectors, everyone is doing their best to rationalize. You know, there is this habit of corruption at the high level, overbilling. Because when someone holds elections, especially in Africa, here, it's like a business. We will finance them. It's the custom here. We distribute tickets so that we can vote on them. So, it's an investment, and as soon as it arrives, he is obliged to plunder to repay. That's not the case with us. We don't have an outside account. We have nothing. We don't want it. Everything is geared towards war. Indeed, if you take the field of oil, you know that the state subsidizes oil, petroleum products, gasoline, diesel, so that the people of Burkina Faso pay less. In 2022, for example, subsidies were around 400 billion, almost 500 billion, which the state pays. 500 milliards de francs CFA. In 2023, we will have less than 100 billion in subsidies. That is to say, you saved 400 billion in subsidies. How do you explain that? We were free to embezzle like the puppets do, but we chose not to.
How long will the transition last? How long will Captain Ibrahim Traore be in business?
In 6 months, if we decided to abandon the people, what would your comment be? Okay, this is to tell you that it is often tiring, it's tiring, but the only thing that keeps us going is the love of the people. We look forward to organizing elections based on African principles of justice. We do not want people to learn this politics from elsewhere and come and apply it here. We want to create a model that suits our people here, because the way things are done here is not the right way. It's like I told you. First, there are a lot of agreements that you see, that we are denouncing, and many more are to come. Yes, the revolution on this aspect has not yet started. That's why I say our economies are going to do very well. People sign agreements for their own interests. Like I said, these are investments. Unfortunately, African heads of state, those who get into these kinds of political jobs, have not always understood. I think that the facts of yesteryear that must give us a lot of lessons, such as the Bokassa and others, they continue to plunder their country's resources and invest in them.
Well, that is all we had time for in this video. Thanks for watching. Long live Burkina Faso. Long live Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Long live Africa.